Here we go. All right. Wonderful. So welcome, guys, to Heart Forged by Fire Ministries. You know, I'm with me today, Dr. Claudia B. Walter. I'm so glad you decided to join us today for an inspiring moment. I want to let you know our discussion today is with our illustrious Diamond Petty. And our topic today is going to be on how we can utilize emotional intelligence in our life's recovery. Let me share a bit about our guest, Diamond. Diamond is an energy flow coach, financial life strategist, and a humanitarian. Diamond is a coach's coach that empowers and inspires those that she coaches and trains to live an intentional life. She helps create strategies and roadmaps to living a life filled with self-love. Her ability to profit from, she teaches you, the ability to profit from your passion and build financial prosperity. You can connect with her on various media platforms, Facebook, and on her website. Please connect with her at www.askthediamond.com. Isn't that awesome? Askthediamond.com. I love that, girl. Yes. I love it. So is there anything you want to add to your introduction today?
Well, first of all, I want to say peace and love to you and all of your listeners and viewers, because it's an honor to be here. Of course, you've been a very integral part of my success in life, and we'll get into that later. But the first thing I always tell people when I meet them is breathe, right? So we'll go into that, into more details. But I also tell people I take all these titles, but I'm more of an experience than anything. And since that can't be just a period, we go with the titles and give people what they're used to. But the Diamond is an experience, and hopefully they'll have a good one today when we connect.
All right.
Today's topic.
Awesome, awesome. So, all right, let's jump into our discussion today on how emotional intelligence aids us in our recovery. First, those joining us, I want to be clear about what we mean by recovery. It isn't just from a substance abuse, a habit, a particular lifestyle, or otherwise, but it's also recovering in our health, in our minds, the fortitude of our minds and our mindset, our behaviors, how we respond, how we react, how we live our life in our life's journey. It's also in our relationships, past and present traumas, and those things that we are constantly going through and adversities that we are facing. It is also with us the state of our current global condition, socially, economically, emotionally, and otherwise. Our destinies, it deals in an intricate ingredient of our destinies, our purposes, and our life's contributions, which may connect with our careers, our ministries, our businesses, and even our current or previous lifestyles, or dealing overall with our well-being. Before we move forward into our discussion, I like to first give you a definition of truly what emotional intelligence is. One translation states, which I can agree with, is that emotional intelligence is the capability of individuals to recognize their own emotions and those of others. It is to discern between different feelings and be able to label them appropriately, to use emotional information to guide thinking and behavior and manage and or adjust our emotions to adapt to our environments or achieve our goals. And so we have to come to a place where we understand that emotional intelligence is truly a part of our human condition. It can be used as a key ingredient to help us navigate through life. Emotional intelligence was popularized by Daniel Goleman in his book, Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. A lot of times in society, we think that being intelligent can help us navigate through everything. What do you think, Diamond, about that?
Well, I am 100% with you, because I was in 1999, I was trained in emotional intelligence for the FCC when I was working there. And at the time, it was like going over everybody's head, and nobody was prepared to take on this new way of thinking. Mm-hmm. And what I found as a trainer of emotional intelligence is people who have high IQs seem to have the lowest EQ because their mindset has not been fully trained to focus on emotions. And we've created a society where we put emotions aside, but everything we do pretty much has a part of our emotions involved in our choices and decisions. So you're absolutely on point with how the emotional intelligence plays a major role, especially when we look around in today's global economy, as well as the world and then the country where we are with what's just happened. Everything is based on emotions. People are acting out of their emotions. So
Yes.
it's very important that we learn the skill of managing our emotions so that we can basically come together, right?
Yes.
So definitely, I'm 100% in agreement with what you just shared. I'm 100%.
Definitely so. I want to talk about the 5 components to emotional intelligence, which are, I find, they're very important key factors that we're going to speak to today and kind of just break down. And they're to aid us. You know, it's about self-awareness. It's about self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. Emotional intelligence is the ability to manage our emotions effectively, express oneself appropriately, and work smoothly with the people or other people that we're around. This doesn't just mean in a workplace, but it could be our family, it could be relational, it could be our community, it could be any person or in any circumstance that we're engaging in, that we're actually engaging in. And so we want to ensure that we all learn to work smoothly toward a common goal. What do you think about that? What is the advice that you can give us so that we can kind of develop, so that we can come to that place?
Well, it's funny because I can see you did your homework, right? So as a trainer, you know, I had all my stuff up here. I'm like ready to go and just kind of give a insight into the course because I train on emotional intelligence, right?
Well, please
So,
give us the insight. I want you
yeah.
to do that because you're a trainer in this area. So I want you to dive in and I want you to give us insight even more deeper to tell us how can we gain this if we don't have it? How can we actually become fortified with these types of things?
Well, I think it starts with us recognizing that it is a part of everything we do, right? So you have basically opened up all of the areas. It's your emotions is a part of your personal relationship. So if you're married, that's a very serious emotional relationship. If you're in a job setting, as much as we say you can't what you say take business, you gotta leave personal things at home, you can't bring person, but if there's a challenge between you and your maid or you and your children,
Yes.
it impacts the way you flow, right? So one of the things that I always tell people is the ability, one of the characteristics of a highly emotional intelligent person is their ability to self-regulate. Well, we can see it from all levels of life. Most people's biggest challenge is their emotions got the best of them and they made a choice at a time when they were heightened in their emotions and weren't able to self-regulate. So that is one of the components that I start with in my training, even though self-awareness is one of the things that most people are not conscious. Like we're a nation, we're a country that's been taught to focus on who's right and wrong, right? So when you lead with that energy as an energy flow coach, that's why I use emotional intelligence in my coaching, is because first we got to think about the energy that is being transferred. Energy doesn't die, right? It just moves from one source to another. So once we understand everything is energy, what is the other most powerful part of us as humans? It's our emotions. People die because of somebody's emotional or in a heightened emotion. Well, I was upset, so I felt justified. But when we have this going on right now, with what we see happen with the young man in Minnesota. So, but it doesn't just start with that particular incident. Everything started from way back when these negative, dark spirited emotions were taught to folks, right? So even though we understand that the rioting and all those things that are going on are probably not going to serve the community well once it's over, all that is a bunch of energy that was being transferred and people not having the ability to regulate their emotions, and they didn't know how to handle it. And so now it's gotten to where it is.
Yes.
So I think for us who are aware of these types of skills when it comes to emotional intelligence, we need to be preparing ourselves now, because it's gonna be a lot of folks that need healing after all of this is taken. And the only way to help them heal will be to be able to help them self-regulate, right? To be able to help them be aware of who and what they are dealing with when it comes to their emotions. So I honestly, from a spiritual place, and people always say you can't put your spiritual stuff in everything. Everything you do is your spirit, right?
Thank you.
From your spirit, when you go to work, when you go to church, when you go to the grocery store, it goes with you. You don't say,
Yes.
Spirit, stay home, and I'm going to go out here and be a carpenter today, or I'm going to go. So we got to heal. Right now, it calls for healing. And so
Yes.
part of the healing is going to be being able to help. And I believe, even within our police force, a lot of that is the lack of emotional intelligence, right?
Yes.
This training needs to be a major part of what they have to go through. Human sensitivity training, which is another thing that I've been trained to do, because it's a difference when you are not only trying to protect your life, but protecting the lives of others.
Yes.
But you haven't been properly taught on how to manage your own emotions. You're going to default to how you see life, right?
Yes.
So
That's
when
right.
you get, so whatever you have within you will be what you will use to make judgment. And if you
That's
have
right. That's right.
unhealthy judgment,
It doesn't matter.
practicing, it's going to still trickle into whatever you're charged with doing. So to answer your question, we have to dive deep into this. This is the time to bring out the emotional intelligence experts and those who understand its value. And we need to make it a part of mandatory training everywhere we go right now. And that is my goal, and I'm looking to find places where that can be put in place. And I think it'll definitely be good for the police department. So definitely.
I do. I think so. I really do. All right, there we go.
So as you know, Dr. Claudia, because you work so much in the community, when you look around, I'm quite sure you yourself, I mean, maybe not consciously, but now if you look back to all the work you've done in the community, you could probably see areas where some of the folks that you've served in your ministry, probably they got into their situations because they lacked emotional intelligence.
Yes, I do. And even for myself, I can see that it has aided me in guiding. I went through a tumultuous divorce, and I even made a decision to take back my maiden name, which was my family name, but I kept my married name. But we don't understand a lot of times when we're in those spaces and we're making those decisions, our emotions do impact us. And this is what I mean by that. Some of the things, yes, I kept my married name because I didn't divorce my son. I kept it because he was still our child. So that gave him connection in our family. Plus, I didn't divorce the family. I'm still a part of this family today. I have his brothers are my big brothers, my former spouse, and his mother and father are my mother and father. So I never divorced the family. However, in that decision to take back my family name and hyphenate my name, guess what it did? It caused some issues in other areas. It caused the fact, with healthcare and documents, pertinent documents and changes and things of that nature. It caused some difficulty with different things of me managing that down the road. But in that decision, I thought, I'm gonna make this emotional. It was an emotional decision. Well, I'm not divorcing my son. I'm going to stay here, but I'm going to take back my family name because I'm going to carry my dad's name. But that was an emotional decision to do that. I really didn't need to do that. I didn't need to go take my family name back. My brothers, I have my father and mother, they had 6 children. They had sons to carry the name on, but I justified why I did it.
And
you hurt in my pain.
You raise a good point, because in the African American community, and I'm going to speak to it because that's where I'm most involved, and I'm an African American, is 90% of our decisions, if not 99% of our decisions, are made based on emotions.
That's
If you
right.
hear our conversation, a lot of times you'll say, well, why did you do that? Well, I didn't feel like it. Your
Mm-hmm.
feelings versus what's necessary is two different things. And I
It
had to
is.
learn that from all of the different challenges I've had in life. And as a little girl, I used to cry about everything. I mean, I was the crybaby of crybabies. And I can remember, men handle stuff differently than women. And I can remember my stepdad saying, crying is not going to get you what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew the women in our family, oh, leave her alone. We would, because we are nurturers by nature, and
We
many of
are.
us don't get to be that way. Emotional intelligence is also a part of being able to know when it's the emotions are going to cost you more than they're worth you actually expressing. You get
That's
all
it.
angry, and so when you think about your decisions in everyday life, ask yourself, is this an emotional decision I'm making? Or is
That's
this
it.
necessary for me to make this decision this way? How could this create more challenges for me along the way? And you are now recognizing, and it may seem like it wasn't a big deal, but you're recognizing that you made an emotional decision and the unnecessary challenges that you had to endure
Yes.
based on your emotions.
And some people would say, just as you mentioned about the life's challenges that we go through, many of us end up engaging those who have counsel, those who have, pastored, and just going through life because I'm a clinical professional certified counselor. And so therefore, seeing this in life with people, how we navigate through life, and me growing emotionally, not just through that instance, but I was already growing, learning what to react to, how to resolve my emotions before I made final decisions. And so a lot of times we think that, well, I'm this is my title, this is my training, and this is how I've grown. And, I'm spiritually grounded because I'm a pastor and I'm this and that. But we have to recognize different situations affect us differently, and they do stir
Yes.
our emotions. And so we have to bring resolution to those areas before we move forward, many times making concrete decisions. And that's the thing about, I talk about the landscape between our two temples, and sometimes how we can set landmines which sabotage ourselves in our choices. And so you said something very clearly, I feel like it or I'm crying. There's nothing wrong with crying, but there's a place for crying. There's identifying what we're talking about, your emotions, labeling them and naming them appropriately and properly. We need to learn, because in the African community, we've been taught a lot. What goes on in this house stays in this house. Well, I would talk about the houses made without men's hands. A lot of times we've applied that to self, not a physical house, but actually the human house, that what goes on in this house stays in this house. So we find ourselves suppressing, pushing down the emotions, pushing down what we feel, or we switch to, when we get a voice, because we've lost it for so long, now we're so vocal and we wear our emotions on our cuff. So everything that happens, we're reactionary instead of responsive. We're constantly talking about, well, I did it because I felt like it. Oh, you don't know me, and this is how I think, and this is how I feel, so you should accept who I am. But how is that impacting your quality of life? Not only you, but all connected with you. How is it impacting your life? And that's why I love emotional intelligence, because it aids us in avoiding certain judgments that we make. It guides us through those places. It also guides us through solving problems that come up into our lives. Yes, we need wisdom to navigate this life. And emotional intelligence, for me, wisdom is a part of that. It fits in because it gives us the fortitude to actually make good decisions that don't just affect us many times. Our lives are coupled with others, whether we see them or we don't.
That's correct. That's correct. And what I'm hearing also, because I've worked in environments and settings with people of other races and nationalities, we are probably one of the most highly emotional race of people if we break it down to, like, look at, white folks, even Indians and Chinese folks, and I understand that I had to learn in the workplace that every decision is not an emotional decision. Some
No.
things just are, right? And I
Mhm.
learned that maybe from working with my white colleagues because they don't bring, and that is the disconnect. Because I feel like they don't bring enough emotions to some of the situations
Mhm.
because they've been taught to see things black and white, and I get that.
Yes. Mhm.
Some things are human connectivity
Yes.
before it becomes just, well, the rule is the rule. Well, the rules are the rules based on somebody's judgment, right? But in
Yes.
that person's judgment, did they factor in the impact of somebody that may not perfectly fit into that rule based on whatever circumstances? So I think that's what we have going on now when we look at the world today is we're
Mhm.
trying to uphold rules that are not necessarily conducive to the lives of those who have to live by them. So my point in that is when we look at it, and I can't avoid talking about the brother, right? So I hope it's
Yes.
not a problem. But when we
It is
look at
not.
his situation of where he was prior to his death, it would appear as if he was probably down on his luck financially, right? I've heard different and seen different videos where they said that for a period of time he's done 5 years in prison, right? So that's put an F on his report card, right? So did he have a counterfeit $20 bill? I don't know. If he had that, did he know he had it? Did he have to feel like he needed to use it as a result of his situation? But when you look at this strong, big black man who has an F on his report card from part of his life, where was his space in this world to follow all the rules and not and be able to survive, right?
Mhm.
Who created a platform or a place? Because we know men need to feel as they're needed and they need to be in a position to provide and protect. So
Yes.
his stature makes him an intimidating man because he's a big black man, right?
Yes.
But when you look at the world that he was living in, there was no open opportunity where people say, come on in, brother. And especially when you look at other people from other sides of the town, be it white people, whoever, what was his life like leading up to where he finally took his last breath, right? So
Yes.
we're fighting for justice in a situation that is not stopped, even if his family get paid and God bless them or whatever. But the system is not created to think about the impact that people have to live through when they lose a loved one like him, when they have never been set up for success.
Yes.
That in itself is oppressive, and oppression creates depression, and depression creates um, more challenges within our household and our community. So when we look at a world that is always focused on right and wrong in a broken system, there again lies there's no emotional intelligence played into the rules because you're the white person who has when they mess up they have a village, be it their uncle is the DA who can get them off, or their auntie has a mansion somewhere down south where they can go and get themselves together, or ability to go to a rehab center that's going to not just abuse them but put them
Mhm.
in a situation where they can be restored and renewed in like a spa-like environment and come out. So I personally have gone through a lot of things where I see they have totally dismissed the emotions of it and they're trying to create this narrative that everything has rules, but the rules apply to certain situations, and in certain situations those rules weren't able to be followed because of what was precipitated, what happened prior to, right? So
And that is true.
and
I think the thing is with color, there are so many disparities between the races and our colors. And yes, there is a divide that goes on. Unfortunately, you have those who are economically, their status has changed, who are African Americans because of parents. For instance, I have children that are thriving as far as their education and things, but it doesn't change and it's positioned them in a certain place. But when my son goes out, I am concerned about him. No matter his status, I'm concerned. My brothers, my niece, my nephews, and today I don't differentiate between gender because of the fact of the matter, because of the color. This here, if we could just strip it and everybody could see the inside, we all look the same. And so when we come into that place of the divide between us, it says, okay, no, I don't know that young man's life and what he was faced with. I don't even know if he knew the monies or the information that we received, because we don't know, because we are not privy. We weren't there.
Yes.
We didn't talk to him. We didn't witness anything up close. There are those, that's not discounting those who did. So we don't know if he knew it was counterfeit. All we knew is that maybe he was trying to take care of the needs for his family. And unfortunately, because of the stature of our young men, because of the stature of our men and how they look, they can present it sometimes as intimidating. We don't know if he resisted arrest. There are so many different things and disparities that are happening in our community amongst those who are economically disadvantaged. There's a prejudice and a divide that is there. It's not just dealing with race and color of skin, because Caucasians, a percentage of them are higher than us, who are economically disadvantaged and challenged. You then also have minorities of all sex and all kinds from different countries who are here, who are treated indifferently. I've seen it, I have witnessed it, no matter their degrees, no matter what backgrounds they have. They could be doctors, lawyers, whatever status you want to talk about, and they're treated indifferently. And so I've seen it. I've seen it with my son's dad. My son was in the car. We've been pulled over, and I've been right there as a woman. I was put in handcuffs at one time. And my husband, of course, wanted to protect me and got upset. And I had to say, no, baby, calm down.
Yes.
We don't want you get our baby home. You did, because I didn't know my license was suspended coming home from work in Howard County.
Yeah.
And because of how we reacted, and another officer came on the scene who I believe did possess the training or the fortitude himself in emotional intelligence and emotional, with human sensitivity, his training, even if he did it himself, he pulled the other officer aside and let him know. And he was a brother who was Caucasian, who said, this is not necessary. This woman was coming home from work. She didn't know. Let's just get her back in the car. This is necessary.
Yes.
And he talked to him and talked him down. And he came, he said, I really apologize.
Yes.
We're so sorry for this. But he apologized to me. I'm sorry. We upset you and your son. My son is in the car. He said, I'm so sorry. We upset you. What we're going to do, this is how we can do this. He didn't disrespect his colleague and his authority, but he maneuvered in a way to meet the needs of all of us, including his colleague, to get us home safely. He said, sir, can I see your license? Let me run your license just to satisfy. He did like this to us. And he said, you have nothing on your license. Could you do this? Could you drive? You okay to drive? Could you drive you and your wife home? You're not far from here, are you? And we weren't. We lived in Howard County at that time. And my husband said, yes. He said, I thank you so much. But he said, brother, I understand why you were upset and how you want to protect your family, especially your wife and your child. He congratulated him. He said, but I want you to always remember to remain calm, because they need you.
Yes.
And that's how he ended that.
And you raise a good point of how what I was sharing with you, right and wrong, doesn't always come into play. Was it against the law for you to be driving without a license?
Yes, it was.
It was. But because he had enough wisdom and was able to see that this is not the time for us to be convicting or trying to, enforce the law as it is written. Let's make some, that's where the human sensitivity come in. If this woman doesn't know her license is expired, how would she know not to drive? Like, there is a level of common sense that needs to be exercised for everybody, right? So how do we get to that place? And I was literally sharing with my daughter today before you and I talked. I said, you know, when I had my Youth in Motion program through my nonprofit, I remember doing so much to put them in a position to be seen and get the help that they needed. And one time I had this big event and had invited out Senator Muse, and I had told them all about the youth that was a part of my program, because I work with a lot of at-risk youth, as they call them. I call them at promise, but they definitely had their
I like that. I like that.
they had their challenges based on their environment. It wasn't just their fault, right? So I was the advocate of advocates for youth. I would tell them, look, don't pick on them about their pants hanging off their behind, because you don't go home with them. And in their neighborhood, there's codes. So you got to look a certain way so you can just get into your house and not be bothered. So
right.
I don't agree with the pants hanging off the tail, but you don't know their world. So let's be a little bit more kind to them. But there was this one particular event, and I really wanted one of my brothers to be there, my young little youth. They call me mom, but whatever. So he didn't make it that day. And I said, Javon, why didn't you make it? There was people there I wanted you to meet, because this was the opportunity for me to show them you guys were worthy of their time and their energy, but you didn't even show up. And he said, well, Mom, I was at the crib and get ready to leave out, and they came and got me because one of the ladies in the neighborhood is like my play mom. Some dudes was disrespecting her. And I said, so what did you do? And he said, well, I went over there and I dealt with them. I said, so what do you mean you dealt with them? He said, well, Ma, I don't really want to tell you what I did, but yeah, I knocked one of them out. I said, oh, you did, huh? Now, I knew this gentleman, he felt like this was what he had to do when you say your husband had to calm himself down.
Yes.
And the woman that was there, so he said to me, Ma, if that would have been you, I would have did the same thing. I said, no, you would not have done the same thing, because I know enough that your life matters more to me here than had you gotten caught and went to jail. I said, here's what you don't realize is I know, because I knew his background and everything. He had 7 years over him if he had gotten in any trouble. I said, and whoever she was, she didn't have the maturity to understand that once you came and secured her, she was supposed to ensure that you guys just left. I said, but for whatever reasons, maybe she needed to feel special, and maybe that's what you did for her. But what would she have done had they locked you up for the next 7 years? Who was going to be there to protect her then? See, this is where emotional intelligence come in.
Yes.
Is this something where I have to, yes, they disrespected her or whatever, but what's tomorrow hold if I respond or react based on how somebody made me feel? You know, I would talk to my youth and I would tell them, I said, if somebody calls you a name, of course, we're not going to cuss, but we know there's names that people can call that can really provoke you.
Yes.
Do you get upset? And they would say, yeah. I said, well, why do you get upset? Because they disrespected me. I said, well, why would you respond if that's not who you are? So you give power. You're part of emotional intelligence is not even giving power to somebody who's trying to take it. If I sit up here,
don't give your power to somebody who does not deserve your power.
Who does not
don't give your power away. And unfortunately, right now in our nation, we're giving our power away. I know some people may disagree with me, but I remember in the old days they said you have a name to represent. And why did they say that? Because they fought blood, sweat, tears, death, locking up, losing their freedom to bring us this far.
Yes. Yes.
Don't let nobody take your power from you.
Yeah.
But stand up, because we do have power. And you know how I am. I'm like about the seats at the table. Go to the table. Get to the table. Understand. But recognize and use your diplomacy. Use your intelligence to get what you want. You know, when I come up in a place, people say the black woman, I don't present myself as an angry black woman. I don't believe in that. You smile and you show that you're intelligent. You maneuver in a certain way, and God will give you, the Spirit of God will show you how to go in and possess what you need. I have seen it done. I have been entered into, and others have entered into places to get what they need and get to tables on others' behalves because how they reacted. And guess what they did? They ended up taking power and authority and standing in positions and being appointed to positions so they could move on behalf of those that are most vulnerable.
Yes. And the biggest part that I tell people is do your homework.
Thank
See,
you.
when we are, people lack emotional intelligence when they are fearful or they don't have enough knowledge of what they're saying. So in our community, a lot of intimidation tactics have been used. You know, we get all hype. Who you
Unfortunately,
talking to? And so when you know
don't
what
feed
you
into
know,
that.
you stand on it, right?
That's because they
You
want
don't,
to label. Don't let somebody label you. You know, I know as African American women, we're have been sensitive to the fact of being called the angry Black woman if you
yeah,
express yourself or show yourself in a certain way or you're upset. It's okay to be upset.
it
Don't
is.
let nobody take you out of character. Don't
Yeah,
react and, like I said, give your power to them, because they're the ones being ignorant by calling you something that you really are not, unless you feed into that description, unless you become what they're trying to make you. And that is even for our young people. That's for all of our race, but it's for all races. Just
yeah,
like with our Asian brothers and sisters who do not feed into the fact that they're this and all these negative labels that are given. But that's for many multiple races. If we think
yes,
back over the years and even currently, what tries to be tagged to these
yes,
places, nations of people, if you choose not to be defined by what somebody believes or want to position you as, you can rise
yes,
above it and you can overcome it. And
yes.
really, you don't have to prove it to them, but really how you respond and how you react it is proving to them and discrediting what they have tried to label you as.
And that's key because, you know, in my state, I always tell people, even when I had my nonprofit, Diamonds on a Mission, they said, well, why would you say it's Diamonds on a Mission? Why would I call it Diamonds in the Rough? I said, because I live intentional. So I set the tone up front. I'm not giving or asking for permission to live intentional. I create what it is that I want to do, and then I do it. And
Yes.
so I think it's a mindset, and everything is energy. When we go back to, if you're at the table and you have to represent, sometimes being quiet speaks volumes, right?
It does.
Not necessarily having to say anything gives people a curiosity to want to know more. We have to learn these type of skill sets, and it all again starts with us being able to regulate our emotions, because you know when you heard something that is not right, but do
Yes.
you have to express it then? Sometimes we got to give people enough time to speak things all the way through, so when we speak, if we have some ammunition, if you will, to say these are the things that I hear here, but this is what we're doing here. And it's okay to use projection in your voice when necessary, but it's not necessary when you know who you are and what you are. You have to understand that being out of control does not help you gain control. And that's where we are right now. And where what we're seeing is people are out of control. And
Mhm.
I posted something today on my Facebook where Dr. King talked about rides is the language of the unheard. So it's not necessarily the worst thing that could happen. It's bad that it got to this place, right? So people
Yes.
didn't just get up and say, let's go ride and loot and do all these things. Something disturbed their peace and their soul, and now they're just out here doing the things that they have to do. And guess what? People are watching and they're listening too. That
Mhm.
is the other thing. Sometimes it do take a little bit of friction to get people's attention because they're not listening, right? So
Yes.
I'm this person that says I'm about peace. So my goal is to maintain peace, but I respect other people and I try my best to put myself in their shoes, because sometimes you really don't know when people are broken, they do broken things.
They do.
Broken people do broken things,
And
right?
that is so true. It takes us into, as we're getting ready to come to a close, with the fact of that there's some key ingredients of emotional intelligence, and they're important ingredients in our lives. And to what we're speaking to, these key ingredients in our lives, they help to fine tune us daily as we live our lives and we walk our purposes and destinies out. We can gain maturity in these areas if, number one, we are self-aware that
Yeah.
these improvements are needed. And as you said, yes, there's friction right now. There are things that are happening. There are things that are going on. There's an unrest that has caused this uprise. Yet, I remember when civil rights movements was there, They had purpose intentions they thought out, and many of them were moving in EQ more than anything else because they understood that, number one, how you relate, it helps you to relate well, and how to cooperate with others, not just in your workspace, but also moving throughout your community, how to be in a movement that is going to be impactful. They knew how to relate, how to cooperatively work together. They knew what the motives should be and why there should be some type of organized demonstrations to go forward in peace and also in movement to make impactful change. And so the second piece of that is it also helps you to achieve your goals. So when they plan in cooperation with others and move to manage their emotions, they also exhibited maturity. And so therefore, they weren't destroying their own neighborhoods. They left that to the other ones who were doing hateful things.
Yes.
There was a difference and a clear divide between what was going on. They weren't there to disrupt and to tear down what was in their communities, which would be needed to be utilized later on. So that's another thing. Yes, there's an unrest. Yes, there's an uprise, but we've got to think with mental fortitude because see that enemy, that dark spirit that is rising and wants to, in turn, it wants to turn us into our enemy. It wants to make sure that we form the weapons. We take them and we use them against ourselves to destroy ourselves. And so that's one thing that emotional intelligence, in maturity, it makes you aware. It makes you stop and it makes you think and it makes you plan correctly so that you don't come into a place where, okay, I'm not concerned about my neighbor across the street. I'm not concerned about the pharmacy down the street that is meeting the needs of many. Or later on, you know, the grocery store down the street that people are going to have a need in a week or so. It makes us let's have a plan here of action before we go forward, because our emotions can take us off course. We're not careful. Our emotions can not only destroy us, but destroy the very things that we value and the very things that we need for life. The other piece of that is to maintain satisfying personal relationships by managing and balancing our emotions. So I'm going to love my neighbor. So yes, if I'm an officer of the peace, if I'm a counselor, I hear so many things as a pastor. I hear so many things as a humanitarian and a community advocate and leader. And so over the years, yes, I am a community developer, a financial manager, and in every single place I am serving and ministering to others. So I'm hearing their emotions. I'm hearing their concerns. I've been sitting at tables as a financial advisor and had to spin my hat because I had somebody about to commit suicide. So you never know, are you ready when you come to the table? It's not about rules, it's about people. We all need rules. Rules help us to govern. And I look at this. The Lord put something on my heart one day about police officers. They are an authority to enforce peace and order, to bring order and peace. That's why they call peace officers. So we look at what peace is. Peace brings a fortification. It brings order. It causes us to live in harmony. It causes us to live in a succinctity of community and common ground and interest, that everyone has well-being and feel protected and feel calm. No, I might not have a loaf of bread in my house, but at least my neighborhood is calm and at peace. I'm not in unrest. I can go to bed and get a good night's rest and rise ready for my next day. The officer is supposed to help enforce that in my region, in my community, but not just them. Doctors, the grocers, the pharmacists, everybody has a place in our communities and in our world. Our politicians have a place and community in our world. The Bible tells us that to pray for our leaders. Why pray for them? So that we can have peace in the land, that we can have a peace in the land. What do we want as our leaders? Just and righteous leaders, not self-agenda leaders. So I hear people saying different things about these situations, but what's your intended purpose in your heart? What is it exactly that you're trying to gain? Are you trying to promote self? Or are you really speaking to the issue and trying to bring resolution and resolve with people who are scared? They are fearful. That's what is bringing this uprise. They're fearful. They're scared. They're tired of being treated unjustly. They're tired of some things, but however, they don't recognize they have tools in their hands to utilize. They hold, you pay taxes. I don't care if you're on government assistance. You still somewhere, somehow have paid into your society because you pay rent. So I need people to understand that. You go buy groceries. You do certain things where you're adding to your community somehow in some way. Your presence adds to your community. Emotional intelligence is so key because it helps us to live a more balanced lifestyle. Personally, emotionally, mentally, physically, it aids with our well-being. So well, Diamond, what are your thoughts about this, Diamond?
Well, you pretty much, I can see you're so passionate about it, and I am too, because I look at life as there's certain levels. So man governs the world, right? But yes, God governs the universe. Then we can get people on a universal level to understand that all we need is within, right? When you look at your actions, a part of emotional intelligence is what I'm about to do sustainable. Yes. So in spite of me acting out or going and tearing up some things, how long can I sustain my life doing these actions, right? So I'm always, even with my children, like I'm a mother of a 12-year-old, I have a 29-year-old in August, and then I have 20 grandbabies, right? Girl. So I'm always shifting hats because I can't treat my 7-year-old grand twins as I treat their mother that's 29 and then my 12-year-old. So my emotional channel has to be able to rise and go down at any given time. Yeah. And I'm always charging the little ones to think about what you're doing and what could be the outcome before you do it. And yes, it's an exercise, right? So I'm always asking them, you know, if you do this, what could happen? Because I'm not trying to tell them what to do. I'm trying to get them to use their own inner compass. Yes. To make decisions that will impact not only their lives, but can impact mine. Because if one of them get hurt, see, when we were kids, if you got hurt, they beat you for getting hurt for the inconvenience, right? Thank you. It's like if you fall off that, jump off, and fall down, I'm gonna beat your butt.
I'm gonna whip you. No even time while you crying, I'm gonna whip you.
So I'm always trying to tell them, and I'll say, if you hurt you, I'm gonna hurt you. And I say it with love and compassion because they know I love you so much. That if you hurt the thing and the person that I love so much, I'm going to hurt you for hurting me. So we laugh about it. Yeah. And this is what I want to share with my brothers and sisters. Our pain has to be put into a plan of action. Like we can't just be haphazardly all over the place because it's not sustainable. It's not. If you want to have change, you got to create a change plan.
Thank you.
And the change plan has to be thoroughly put into action. So for me, I feel the pain. My heart aches. There's so much that I could share, and I know we're closing out. But the first thing I always tell people is count your breaths. Just breathe, right? Breathing is the most important and valuable thing we all have right now. We saw a brother's breath be taken away. Yes. And prior to us seeing that, I've always said, as long as you can breathe, then you're in a good space. And so right now, we have to, at least if that's all we have to hold on to is right now, I can breathe. Let's start from there to heal. Because when you breathe, that's where you connect to God. Because God is in the breath. He is. Start breathing and nothing else matters, right? So the more we start to value our breath and calm our spirits, the greater chances are we are able to hear from God to give us guidance, to work together. But you being chaotic and doing all these things that are just going to create more challenges, it's going to make breathing for you harder.
Yes.
So I'm just like, and I don't know who's going to see this. I'm just praying that whoever does see this, that this will be a message to say, we want to help you heal. Because my thing is, we're going to have to create some healing camps for folks, because there is a lot of people who are hurt, and they're hurting themselves
They
and
are.
hurting other people.
They
And
are.
so in this healing camp, because now I'm speaking something, Dr. Claudia, I don't know where
Come
this
on.
came
I
from.
keep going, because
In
I'm
this
with you.
healing,
I was like, yes,
in
go on
this
and speak.
healing camp, we're going to have to be able to teach some of these emotional intelligent characteristics, but we're going to also have to allow people the opportunity to just breathe, because people have been holding their breath for so long for whatever reason, right?
Yes.
That they don't even know how to effectively use their breath.
No. And
And
you're absolutely
they
right.
need this time to breathe and breathe easy. And so I am so grateful that you have brought me on to your show today, to share and really just allow people to see that the sisters, we always organizing behind the scenes, because we want to be here to support our people, whether it's our children, our mamas, our daddies, our men, and so we are working, and there's a lot for us to do. There's a lot of work for us to do, because when I talk about what's going on, they say, well, what do you think we should do? And sometimes awareness doesn't mean you right now have an answer, but it doesn't mean you're not aware.
That's
And I'm
it.
fully aware of what's going on, because my
Yes.
soul is crying out, as is
Yes.
others. But now it's time for everybody. And if you say you believe in God and you believe in a high power, it's time to tap in.
It is.
Because there's going to be a place for you. There is a place for you now, but there's going to be a bigger place for us to be available to those who have just gone out and their soul is crying
That's right.
out.
Yeah.
So we have to organize ourselves now to
Yes.
create a space and a place to help the souls of many who are broken right now to heal. And
Yes.
that is what I am focusing my energy on behind the scenes, while I hold up everybody in consciousness and love and light energy. What is it that I can be working on so that I'm able to serve those who are going to need the healing treatments and the healing time to ensure that they get what they need, because that's where we're going. It's time for a healing. So
It is. I absolutely agree with that, Diamond, because of the simple fact. I know I got real passionate. You know what they say, you give a preacher a mic, you'll preach, but I believe preaching is teaching. And I'm just ecstatic about this, because I want everybody to understand it's very key what you just said about healing. And healing comes, we can't heal nobody else until we heal ourselves. We have to be the change that we want to see. And it starts individually with each and every single individual. We have to change our approach. We have to say, you know what, let's come up with a plan, even if it's just in my household.
yes.
How we're going to, even if it's just in my space, even if it's just on my block, even if it's just on my side of the street. What is it going to be that you can bring to the table? What is a part of the change that you can do? And so we got to begin to think about that. And you're right, we have a lot of hurting people. And one thing, I've lived long enough now that I can agree with the fact that hurting people hurt people.
Yes.
But I don't want to see anymore. You know, we're talking about the young man that just lost his life by breathing his last breath. It was so unfortunate. And I can imagine that young woman being so traumatized as she's recording that.
Yes.
However, will we continue to perpetuate
Yes.
this over and over again without bringing some absolutes to it in reference to, and what I mean by that is some change, some truly impactful change to where we're working together to see and make a difference. Because a few weeks ago, another young man lost his life while simply out jogging, had a promising future ahead of him, and he lost. And so we keep going back and we keep going back. And yes, we've had some vital movements. We've had Black Lives Matter. We've had some other things. We've had athletes step forward. We've had many prominent figures step forward of all races and creeds and statuses of life to simply state and say, this is not right. You can't, this cannot continue. Yet in these hours, will more of us step forth and join the causes or create new causes and new places to heal, so that not only we can heal from what just happened, but heal the lives of those, as you said earlier, about the F's on their records, and those who didn't see opportunity or maybe didn't know exactly how I can plan to come out of my circumstance and live a better life.
Yeah.
How these key points that we talked about today can actually aid them and help them. And
Yes.
so the last question I have for you, and then I'm going to read something in closing, that Psychology, an article they stated about emotional intelligence. But in closing, can you share any advice of how we can live a better qualitative life? And then also, as a coach, some of the keys that you give to those who you are coaching. And I do believe something is coming. You and I and many others are going to work together on these healing spaces for people throughout the world.
Yes. Well, first thing I would say in closing is I believe self-love requires you to be gentle with self. If we're going to be able to help others heal, we got to start with ourselves. So make sure you just gentle with you. Be nice to you. You know, speak words that encourage you. We treat you like you would treat your best friend, because sometimes I think in our community we've been taught to go outside of ourselves, and we're always, protecting those that we love. But it really is important that you protect yourself, and you don't have to protect yourself by fighting, but would you talk to your friend the way you talk to yourself? What is your self-talk? How are you? When you make a mistake, do you give yourself a break? Do you say, oh, it's okay, Diamond, that I made a mistake, but I'm going to do better next time? Or do you say stuff like, oh man, I just messed up everything? Be gentle. When you're gentle with you, you can be gentle with me. So I'm always telling people, be nice to you. I need you to love on you, because I know if you love it on you, you're going to love on me. And so I always ask people or share with people, it's very clear. Love is patience. Love is kind, caring, compassion, and enduring. Now, the endurance piece I always clarify, because some people are in very unhealthy relationships and they say they do it because it's love. Love doesn't require you to be in a domestically violent relationship.
That's right.
Enduring is, until I lose these 50 pounds, I'm going to endure these exercises. That's enduring, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not stuff that's going to break your spirit and break your soul. It's doing the things that you may have to endure and save your money a little bit to get what you want. That's endurance. But if all those things, patience, kindness, caring, sharing, and compassion isn't present, then you're not operating out of love. So I need you to do that to you so you can do it for me. So that's what I encourage. And in my coaching, I have 5 houses that I coach from, and that's your spiritual, your mental, your emotional, your financial, and your physical house. Because all these things are required in order for us to be able to live in harmony. Life is always out of balance, because that's just life, right? So we always say we need a balanced life, but sometimes your finances is doing great, but your physical house, maybe you may need to start exercising a little more. That needs some work. So that's way messed up. You got to bring that up. So when I talk about life, I look at all 5 houses, because all of those things are what we have to constantly be working on to create harmony, right? And so I always encourage my clients and those that I speak to is look at your 5 houses. What's going on in there? Because just because you're doing financially well, if you're feeling void, maybe there's some things in your emotional house that you're not really giving attention to that is crying out. So that's why you're not feeling so good, right? Your emotions are all out of sync, right? So I encourage you guys to see that you matter, and not only does your life matter, but the lives of others. I personally feel like it's not just about Black lives, but we got to keep it at the forefront, because it's the most disadvantaged life that's in this country. You don't see Africans being killed and they're Black. You don't see Indians being killed and they're Black. So there is a dark energy over top of African Americans, right? So I'm very conscious and aware that for whatever reason, this particular race of Black people has been under attack for many, many years. And we have to work to heal the hearts of those who continuously beat us down. I'm going to just say that. And it starts within us though. So we have the ability to go in. So now's the time to tap into the universal powers, right?
Yes.
We can't expect man to change the laws to suit us. We have to help have the universe to sanction a move of heart. Because when your heart is moved, you move in accordance to that movement. So I encourage us to go in your meditation, meditate, because meditation is where you're able to clear your mind, and you're also able to allow spirit to create in the world, because the world is the people. People always say, well, you know, that's just the world. Well, when we look at the world, who is the world? The world is the people.
That's it.
When we change the heart of man and the mind of man, we change the world. So through our vibrational, spiritual growth, and it's settling yourself, visualizing yourself, seeing a peaceful world. And I promise you, if enough of us are doing this on a regular basis, this is how we're going to heal the world. They're not hearing us. Talking and not being heard. Being forceful and fightful, that's not being heard. You got to go in. It's an inside job. It's not the loud in the crowd that's going to make the movement. Tap into your ancestral spirits. They can make things happen. So I'm very, very clear that my job right now is not to be out in the streets fighting. My job is to be sitting here connecting to my source and visualizing and seeing and feeling and creating a feeling of peace, because it's coming. And I want to be a part of it. And we have the ability, and that's why I train on energy flow. Your energy can shift anything. When you walk into a room, when I walk into a room, a lot of times I don't say anything. And people, I can remember when I used to go to bars and people would put their cigarettes out. And I'm like, go ahead and smoke your cigarette. I mean, nah. And I didn't say anything. It was my energy. They felt there was something resonated with them, that this is a special being. And so I always teach my children, we don't show off, we just show up. And when we show up, our energy has impact. But that's because of the work that we did in our house, in the quiet. The quiet is where you create the big. It's not in the big.
It's not in the big. Change agent. Because you can walk into an atmosphere and the God in you greets the God in them, and whether they recognize it or not. And it brings about an actual, tangible change.
So just love self, and respect the breath. Respect your breath. Every time you breathe throughout the day, you thank Spirit. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, God. Whatever you see as your God, because that's what I do throughout my day. When I'm breathing, I'm thanking Him all day. So I'm always thankful. I always got a reason to be thankful. So thank God for the breath. And it will remind you, whenever you're in a stressful moment, take 5 deep breaths. I do it with my children. When they get overwhelmed and my little grandkids get out of control, I say, come on, let's do some breathing. And that's how we recenter ourselves. Center yourself throughout the day. Meditation is a daily, all day practice. You don't have to sit still for 5 hours. And throughout the day, just take 5 deep breaths. And I promise you, it will lower your blood pressure. It will center you. And so in closing, if anyone wants to reach out to me, I am on Facebook. I'm Diamond Petty. I'm rebranding in my whole brand right now.
Awesome.
But my website is askthediamond.com. I honestly don't have the number that I would give out. I'm still putting up my, redoing my Instagram. And I think I'm gonna just stick with 2, because you can get overwhelmed with all these different social media. So I think I'm gonna stick with 2 for right now, but definitely, if you go to my website, it's a lot of information up on there about me and what I do. And Dr. Claudia, I appreciate you. Of course, you know, you're my sister, my big sister from way back when. So I have taken a lot of your nuggets and watched you in action. And when you say stuff happen with your presence. The God in you, the God in me recognize the God in you. And I appreciate being connected to you and being able to be a part of all of the different programs that we did together and that we're going to do together, because I'm speaking it into existence now.
All right now.
I'm looking forward to our next phase of this journey that we've been able to take together. And I really appreciate being connected to you.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule today, Diamond, to be with us, to talk with us, to share with us, to be transparent with us. And not only just what you have gained intellectually, but also through life's experience, what you have shared and what you're applying and teaching others to do. So I'm so grateful for that. I want to end with this, with the fact that I was reading there's a lot of information out there on emotional intelligence. I love psychology today. But one of the things is that, emotional intelligence, it says individuals who are both highly conscious or the fact that they're connected is what I want to say. Some of the nuggets that I was able to pick up from that, and just in our conversation, the fact of the matter is it aids us in how we respond to negativity around us, how we respond to frustrating situations, how we deal with sadness, or even the fact more subtly, just managing our emotions through our life's way and life's course and journey. And so one of the things I've noted is that it can actually aid us in how we navigate not only our community and our life and our journey, how we interact with others, but then also our social environment. It can make a person a better friend, a better coworker, a better leader, a better parent, even being a romantic partner in a relationship. It can make us so much better on so many levels, and also aid us in accomplishing the goals and the things that we desire to do and accomplish, but also aid us in impacting and bringing about change and transformation for others. And so I want you to understand something, listeners, today, and those who have joined us, that this is something, if you don't have it or you're not growing in it, because I don't believe there's a stopping. I believe as we grow in life, this is maturity and cultivates. It's constantly growing. We're constantly adding on to it. We're constantly expanding in it. It's a component of our human condition, and it makes us better for it, and makes those who we connect with and engage with and even serve better. And I just want to say I thank you for joining us today from Heart to Heart, Inspiring Moments. We hope that you see some inspiring nuggets today. We hope that you reach out to Diamond at askthediamond.com and continue to reach out to us. You can reach me on all various platforms that I post on. And if you find that you're in need to sit down with us, or you want to get some training on this area, and even you want to collaborate with us, you all know that I'm the chairman and CEO of the collaborative, and we do a lot of humanitarian works throughout the globe and locally in the state of Maryland and throughout the metropolitan area, but also globally. We move and we work with various partners. We love to collaborate with you on this and sit down, because we need to really, truly, Diamond spoke to it. See, I used to know her as the former. Diamond. And so, we want to develop these spaces where people can heal and people can grow and people can become their best self, as I'm going to say. And, we're still growing in this, guys. We ain't put it all together yet. We are still developing and growing. So we love, if you willing with me, Diamond, to have these conversations with you and actually develop.
Well, I'll do one further in closing out, and I have an assessment that I do with usually my clients. So if anybody does reach out to me and as a result of being here on your show, I will give them the free assessment, and it just helps them with the personality to see, what personality they're most like. And it's the tool that I use to help me when I initially work with a person to find out where they are. So if you go to my website, you put your information in and let me know that you met me through Dr. Claudia. I'll give you that tool as a complimentary gift and starting your journey on emotional intelligence. So thanks again, Dr. Claudia, and I appreciate it. And I look forward to the next one. When's the next one now? We got to keep it going, keep it going.
The next one, I was listening to that. I was like, okay, no, guys, listen, y'all chime in and tell us. We are actually going to do a part 2 of this because I thought this was so helpful today as we just talked and shared in our discussion. I'm ready for part 2. Are you ready, Diamond?
Oh, let's make it happen. And now I think we got to flow with spirit, right? So we just happened to have had this plan, but we didn't have what was going on in our nation today planned, right? You talked to me about this about a month ago. But now when you talked to me about it, we didn't know that this was going to be a heightened time of emotions all over this country like it is today. So Spirit knew where we were going to be before we knew we were going to be here. So now more than ever, we do need to continue the conversation so that we can be heard and we can have impact. So I'm ready. Let's make it happen. So you have a great one.
You too. God bless you, my dear, and God bless you all who joined us today. Please invite your friends and share the video. Put your comments in. Hit your thumbs up, your hugs and your kisses and your love.
Yes.
We want to hear back from you about your thoughts today. If you got any questions, please visit us at the various sites that we mentioned. And much love and peace to you continuously. God bless you and keep you. Stay safe out there. You all take care.
Peace and love.